Hi, Luke here. I have a cell phone. You probably also have a cell phone, or at least know someone who does. Because according to IDC, in 2012, there were 1 billion cell phones shipped. In that same year, Cisco estimated that there were 8.7 billion devices connected to the internet. And they predicted that in 2020, that number would be 40 billion. They call this the Internet of Everything. But how did we get to this point? What has enabled humans to communicate across the globe at the speed of light? The answer is the 29th element on the periodic table, copper. Over the course of history, copper has changed the way humans interact with each other and interact with the environment, ultimately leading to the global communication system we see today. The universe is really old. To be precise, 13.8 billion years old. But the story of copper begins around 200 million years after the Big Bang, with the formation of the first stars. After the Big Bang, the universe was full of atomic dust. Now, fortunately for us, some of these atoms were closer together than others, and so matter in these areas became more and more compact and got hotter and hotter because of gravity. Eventually, the atoms started fusing, releasing huge amounts of energy and igniting stars. As stars burn, they use up fuel, hydrogen atoms which fuse together and release energy. But when average-sized stars run out of hydrogen, they collapse. Large stars are more interesting. They become red giants. These stars have enough energy to start fusing helium, which then fuses into carbon, which then fuses into oxygen, and then neon, magnesium, silicon, and then lastly iron, which cannot fuse. Without the energy of fusing atoms pushing outwards, red giants will collapse and go supernova. Supernovae create all the elements on the periodic table, including copper, and cast them out into space in a violent explosion that shines as bright as an entire galaxy. Our planet formed in a very similar way to stars. Matter orbiting our sun formed into a protoplanetary disk that looks similar to a very, very large version of Saturn's rings. Over time, these space rocks smashed together over and over, eventually accreting to small planet-like objects called planetesimals. These planetesimals accreted more and more, until finally they formed into planets like our Earth. As you'd imagine, being constantly bombarded by asteroids and other space debris caused Earth to get really hot. Hot enough, in fact, that all the metals sunk towards the core, in a process called chemical differentiation, the same process, in fact, that causes the oil and vinegar in this salad dressing to separate. As time went on and the Earth became more habitable, life started evolving. It would take almost 4 billion years for Homo sapiens to arrive, and another 190,000 years for them to discover copper and its uses. The first civilizations to use copper were the Sumerians and the Chaldeans in ancient Mesopotamia around 8000 BCE. They didn't revolutionize copper and its uses, but they passed their knowledge down to the ancient Egyptians who did. The Egyptians used copper for agricultural tools, which made work in the field much easier and much more efficient, cookware and dishes, saws, chisels, knives, and even beauty products like mirrors and makeup. In 4000 BCE, humans figured out how to bond copper with metals like zinc or tin to form the alloys brass and bronze. These alloys are much stronger than copper, so people actively sought them out. Unfortunately for them, these metals are not all in the same place, so people had to travel and trade to get them. Now this is a very, very good thing for us, because it forced people to exchange ideas and customs, thus increasing the collective learning or global intelligence of humanity. Copper was eventually trumped by iron, but in 1752, Benjamin Franklin unknowingly brought it back by deciding to start experimenting with electricity. This led to the invention of the lightning rod, which copper is still used in today. But it also caused something greater to happen, the kickstarting of electrical engineering. Those that followed in Franklin's steps invented things like the telegraph, the telephone, and eventually the smartphone. Now, what do all these things have in common? Well, be it cables, circuit boards, or batteries, they all rely on copper. Copper cables were first used in 1812 to detonate landmines in the Baltic, and then they were again used in 1816 to transmit telegraphed messages underground. The first underwater cable was developed in 1845 by Jacob and Watkins Brett. Unfortunately, this didn't go so well. The cable broke after only a day of operation, but the idea had been proved possible. Eventually, in 1966, the first cross-Atlantic cable was completed, and the era of global communication had begun. In the modern day, we have underwater cables going all over the world, and I think we take this a little bit for granted. Copper has shaped and reshaped the way humans interact with each other and interact with the environment. This element has been around for billions of years, forged in the death of giant stars. It was there during the formation of our solar system and of our Earth over 4.5 billion years ago. 10,000 years ago, the first people started using copper for tools, and 6,000 years ago, humans discovered how to forge copper and tin together to make bronze. In the modern day, we use copper cables to connect and communicate across the planet at light speed. As time goes on, copper may see diminished use or even replacement, but it will forever remain the metal that changed the world. It will always be the conductor of complexity. And as always, thanks for watching.